JMV, everybody. Thanks for logging in to watch the stream today. We'll just give a quick prologue to the Chandipath before the reading starts. The reading will be about a couple of hours. So I think just looking at the kind of 2 hours and reasons, and the value of doing this reading is just as a reminder, really, is that I think firstly, it was a reminder that this keeps progression on a spiritual path. And secondly, if you are a devotee of Ma, then listening to this story once does not mean that you necessarily understand it. Hearing it again and again, pushing the story into your subconscious. Thus, when you leave this reading, whether you know it or not, the mind will take something away and will impact you in some subtle way. And thirdly, people having a natural liking to some god or goddess, all paths lead to the same place, but the doctor offers the right prescription for a patient's ailment. This reading helps those that have a closeness to Ma because it is the right prescription for them and they're likely to gain the benefit. It is with my humble prayers that you gain some spiritual benefit from this reading. And so now I'll move to cover the story of Ma during these 9 nights and 10 days. The Chandipath, whilst a set of stories, has a deeper meaning. It sets out the concept of Shakti energy and makes a distinction between the outcome and the power behind it. Like a car drives, power is the fuel. Like a kettle boils, the electricity causes it to work. It is this energy that Chandipath describes in the function of its ability of illusion. The Chandipath is introduced with 2 people, a king named Surat, having lost his kingdom, deposed by his evil, wicked ministers, and a merchant Samadhi, cast out by his family and stripped of his wealth, and now weary of this world, both miserable and confused. The situation is similar to the plight of Arjun prior to the Gita being expounded by Krishna. Arjun, having to go to war and kill his kith and kin, lay in a state of confusion and lack of will to do so. Both were clouded by Maya, or illusion. This introduction frames the problem the Chandipath is attempting to resolve. We are all under an illusion, attached to something and are bound to the consequences of joy and sorrow. However, the 2 individuals now go to Sage Medas, our call to seek the spiritual wisdom to give us enlightenment and resolve the problem of this delusion. The Chandipath now covers 3 stories involving Ma, with the sage narrating each one to the king and merchant. The first story paints the scene of Vishnu lying on the serpent whom itself lays on the primordial ocean, Brahma sitting on the lotus protruding from Vishnu's navel. Vishnu is under the power of Ma, the great delusion, who is keeping Vishnu asleep. 2 demons, Madhu and Ketab, are born from Vishnu's earwax and attempt to kill Brahma. Brahma, seeing this, attempts to wake the Lord, invoking the power of the mother or Shakti. Eventually, Vishnu wakes and fights the demon. Deluded by their pride, they mistakenly give Vishnu a boon, and he of course asks to kill them and so dies by their pride. What does this mean? The story notes the quality of, or gunas, of tamas, specifically pride. Due to desire, one gains this pride and this clouds one's vision. Pride comes before a fall, as they say. Therefore, avoid being prideful, but put a ceiling on desires, discriminate your thoughts. The story is set before the world exists, reminding us that none of this is ours in the first place. The second story is about Mahishasur, a demon with the ability to change its form. The demon battled the gods, won and cast them out from the heavens, thus undertaking all their responsibilities and took what they owned. The gods plead to Vishnu and Shiva. Out of their bodies and other gods came together, light of which was created Ma. She then battles this Mahishasur, who eventually, after changing form many a time, is pinned down by Ma, and now reveals his true form and has his head cut off. This story notes the Rajasic attribute Ogun. Again, desire is at the root. The demon wanting to rule heaven and earth, but he also, in the story, shows his anger. This is another quality the Chandipath notes we can have and shows us a solution. Ma, having pinned down the demon, eventually cuts his head with a sword. This sword represents spiritual wisdom and can be used to avoid becoming angry. Anger is because you do not get what you want, what you desire. With this wisdom, employ it to identify your desire and cut it out. By doing so, as per the law of karma, you don't do bad actions and therefore you don't reap the consequences. In the third and final story, we are introduced to two demons, Shumb and Nishumb. Having deposed the gods from heaven, they had grown an ego due to all that they have gained. The story goes that they are told of a woman who is a gem of beauty, but they do not possess her. Becoming greedy, the demons send out their other demons to fetch her by marriage proposal, threats, or by force. Among those demons, Raktabij is sent to Ma to get her by force, who has the ability to grow another of himself from just a drop of blood hitting the soil or earth. Regardless of these attempts, the demons do not succeed and eventually are killed by Ma. Shumb represents ego, Nishumb represents greed, Raktabij represents the myriad of desires. The story demonstrates how lust, a specific desire, leads to one's downfall. A desire springs forth, and as soon as that is gone, another desire or desires come along. How do you stop this? In the story, Kali drank the blood before it reached the ground, and so, in the same way, nip any desire in the bud. In the end, the sage asks both the merchant and king to meditate. After 3 years, Ma presents herself and gives the boons each desires. The king got back his kingdom, and the merchant got the wisdom or knowledge leading to liberation from the cycle of worldly ups and downs. Again, this employs another solution. Meditate, introspect and check your desires, thoughts and actions. Be like the merchant and you will break the cycle of ups and downs. And with that summary, we start the Chandipath. There will be 13 chapters. Meditation of Mahakali. I resort to Mahakali, who has 10 faces, 10 legs, and holds in her hands the sword, disc, mace, arrows, bow, club, spear, missile, human head and conch, who is 3-eyed, adorned with ornaments on all her limbs, and luminous like a blue jewel, and whom Brahma extolled in order to destroy Madhu and Gaitab when Vishnu was in mystic sleep. Markandeya said to his disciple Grastuki Bhaguri, Savarni, son of Surya, is called the 8th Manu. Listen while I describe in detail about his birth, how Savarni, illustrious son of Surya, became the lord of the 8th Manvantara by the grace of Mahamaya. In former times there was a king named Surat, born of the Jaitra dynasty, ruling over the whole world in the period of Sarosija. He protected his subjects duly like his own children. At that time, the kings who were the destroyers of Golas became his enemies. He, the wielder of powerful weapons, fought a battle with the destroyers of Golas, but was defeated by them, though they were a small force. Then he returned to his own city and ruled over his own country. Then that illustrious king was attacked by those powerful enemies. Even in his own city, the king, now bereft of strength, was robbed of his treasury and army by his own powerful, vicious, and evil-disposed ministers. Thereafter, deprived of his sovereignty, the king left alone on horseback for a dense forest under the pretext of hunting. He saw there the hermitage of Medas, the supreme among the twice-born, inhabited by wild animals, which were peaceful and graced by the disciples of the sage. Entertained by the sage, Surat spent some time moving about in the hermitage of the great sage. There, then overcome with attachment, he fell into the thought, I do not know whether the capital, which was well guarded by my ancestors and recently deserted by me, is being guarded righteously or not by my servants of evil conduct. I do not know what enjoyments my chief elephant, heroic and always elated, and now fallen into the hands of my foes, will get. Those who are my constant spendthrift, constant followers, and received favour, riches, and food from me, now certainly pay homage to other kings. The treasure which I pay homage to other kings, the treasure which I gathered with great care, will be squandered by those constant spendthrifts who are addicted to improper expenditures. The king was continually thinking of these and other things. Near the hermitage of the Brahman, he saw a merchant and asked him, Ho, who are you? What is the reason for your coming here? Wherefore do you appear as if afflicted with grief and depressed in mind? Hearing this speech of the king, uttered in a friendly spirit, the merchant bowed respectfully and replied to the king. The merchant said, I am a merchant named Samadhi, born in a wealthy family. I have been cast out by my sons and wife, who are wicked through greed of wealth. My wife and sons have misappropriated my riches and made me devoid of wealth. Cast out by my trusted kinsman, I have come to the forest, grief-stricken. Dwelling here, I do not know anything as regards good or bad of my sons, kinsman, and wife. At present, is welfare or ill luck theirs at home? How are they? Are my sons living good or evil lives? The king said, Why is your mind affectionately attached to those covetous folks, your sons, wife, and others, who have deprived you of your wealth? The merchant said, This very thought has come to me, just as you have uttered it. What can I do? My mind does not become hard. It bears deep affection to those very persons who have driven me out in their greed for wealth, abandoning love for a father and attachment to one's master and kinsman. I do not comprehend, although I know it, O noble-hearted king, how it is that the mind is prone to love even towards worthless kinsmen. On account of them, I heave heavy sighs and feel dejected. What can I do, since my mind does not become hard towards those unloving ones? Markandeya said, Then, O Brahman, the merchant Samadhi and the noble king together approached the sage Medas, and after observing the etiquette worthy of him, and as was proper, they sat down and conversed with him on some topics. The king said, Sir, I wish to ask you one thing. Be pleased to reply to it. Without the control of my intellect, my mind is afflicted with sorrow. Though I have lost the kingdom, like an ignorant man, though I know it, I have an attachment to all the paraphernalia of my kingdom. How is this, O best of sages? And this merchant has been disowned by his children, wife, and servants, and forsaken by his own people. Still, he is inordinately affectionate towards them. Thus, both he and I, drawn by attachment towards objects whose defects we do know, are exceedingly unhappy. How this happens then, sir, that though we are aware of it, this delusion comes. This delusion besets me as well as him, blinded as we are in respect of discrimination. The Rishi said, Sir, every being has the knowledge of objects perceivable by the senses. An object of sense reaches it in various ways. Some beings are blind by day, and others are blind by night. Some beings have equal sight both by day and night. Human beings are certainly endowed with knowledge, but they are not the only beings to be so endowed. For cattle, birds, animals, and other creatures also cognize objects of senses. The knowledge that men have, birds and beasts too have, and what they have men also possess, and the rest, like eating and sleeping, is common to both of them. Look at these birds, which though they possess knowledge, and are themselves distressed by hunger, are yet, because of the delusion, engaged in dropping grains into the beaks of their young ones. Human beings are, O tiger among men, attached to their children because of greed for return help. Do you not see this? Even so, men are held into the whirlpool of attachment, the pit of delusion. though the power of Mahamaya, the great illusion, who makes the existence of the whole world possible. Marvel not at this. This Mahamaya is the Yog Nidra of Vishnu, the Lord of the world. It is by her the world is deluded. Verily she, the Bhagavati, Mahamaya, forcibly drawing the minds of even the wise, throws them into delusion. She creates this entire universe, both moving and unmoving. It is she who, when propitious, becomes a boon giver to human beings for their final liberation. She is the supreme knowledge, the cause of final liberation, and eternal. She is the cause of the bondage of transmigration and the sovereign over all lords. The king said, Venerable sir, who is that Devi whom you call Mahamaya? How did she come into being, and what is her sphere of action, O Brahman? What constitutes her nature? What is her form? Wherefrom did she originate? All that I wish to hear from you, O supreme among the knowers of Brahman. The rishi said, She is eternal, embodied as the universe. By her all this is pervaded. Nevertheless, she incarnates in manifold ways. Hear it from me. When she manifests herself in order to accomplish the purposes of the Devas, she is said to be born in the world, though she is eternal. At the end of a gulp, when the universe was one ocean with the waters of deluge, and the adorable Lord Vishnu stretched out on Shesh and took to mystic slumber, two terrible Asurs, the well-known Madhu and Gaitab, sprung into being from the dirt of Vishnu's ears, sought to slay Brahma. Brahma, the father of beings, was sitting in the lotus that came out from Vishnu's navel. Seeing these two fierce Asuras and Janardana asleep, and with a view to awakening Hari, Brahma, with concentrated mind, extolled Yod Nidra, dwelling in Hari's eyes. The resplendent Lord Brahma extolled the incomparable goddess of Vishnu, Yog Nidra, the queen of cosmos, the supporter of the worlds, the cause of the sustentation and dissolution alike of the universe. Brahma said, You are Swaha and Swada, you are verily the Vasatkar and embodiment of Swar. You are the nectar, O eternal and imperishable one. You are the embodiment of the threefold Matra. You are half a Matra, though eternal. You are verily that which cannot be uttered specifically. You are Savitri and the supreme mother of the Devas. By you this universe is born. By you this world is created. By you it is protected, O Devi, and you always consume it at the end. O you who are always of the form of the whole world at the time of creation, you are of the form of the creative force at the time of sustentation, and you are of the form of the protective power, and at the time of the dissolution of the world, you are of the form of the destructive power. You are the supreme knowledge as well as the great nescience, the great intellect and contemplation, as also the great delusion, the great Devi, as also the great Asuri. You are the primordial cause of everything, bringing into force the three qualities. You are the dark night of periodic dissolution. You are the great night of final dissolution and the terrible night of delusion. You are the goddess of good fortune, the ruler, modesty, intelligence, characterized by knowledge, bashfulness, nourishment, contentment, tranquility, and forbearance. Armed with sword, spear, club, discus, conch, bow, arrows, slings, and iron mace, you are terrible, and at the same time you are pleasing, yea, more pleasing than all pleasing things, and exceedingly beautiful. You are indeed the supreme Ishwari, beyond the high and low. And whatever or wherever a thing exists, real or unreal, whatever power all that possesses is yourself. O you who are the soul of everything, how can I extol you more than this? By you, even he who creates, sustains, and devours the world is put to sleep. Who is here capable of extolling you? Who is capable of praising you? Who have made all of us, Vishnu, myself, and Hari, and Shiva, take our embodied forms. O Devi, being lauded thus, bewitch these two unassailable Asuras, Madhu and Kaita, with your superior powers. Let Vishnu, the master of the world, be quickly awakened from sleep, and rouse up his nature to slay these two great Asuras. The Rishi said, There, the Devi of delusion, extolled thus by Brahma, the creator, in order to awaken Vishnu for the destruction of Madhu and Kaita, drew herself out from his eyes, mouth, nostrils, arms, heart, and breast. and appeared in the sight of Brahma of inscrutable birth. Janardana, Lord of the universe, quitted by her, rose up from his couch on the universal ocean, and saw these two evil asuras, Madhu and Gaita, of exceeding heroism and power, with eyes red in anger, endeavouring to devour Brahma. Thereupon, the all-pervading Bhagwan Vishnu got up and fought with the asuras for 5,000 years, using his own arms as weapons, and they, frenzied with their exceeding power and deluded by Mahamaya, exclaimed to Vishnu, "Ask a boon from us." Bhagwan Vishnu said, "If you are satisfied with me, you must both be slain by me now. What need is there of any other boon here? My choice is this much, indeed." The Rishi said, "Those two asuras, thus bewitched by Mahamaya, gazing then at the entire world turned into water, told Bhagwan, the lotus-eyed one, 'Slay us at the spot where the earth is not flooded with water.'" The Rishi said, "Saying, be it so." Bhagwan Vishnu, the great wielder of conch, discus and mace, took them on his loins, and there severed their heads with his discus. Thus, she, Mahamaya herself, appeared when praised by Brahma. Now listen again, the glory of the Devi, I tell you. Here ends the first chapter called The Slaying of Madhu and Gaita of Devi Mahatmym in Markandeya Puran during the period of Savarni the Manu. I resort to Mahalakshmi, the destroyer of Mahishasur, who is seated on the lotus, who is the complexion of coral, and who holds in her 18 hands rosary, axe, mace, arrow, thunderbolt, lotus, bow, pitcher, rod, shakti, sword, shield, conch, bell, wine cup, trident, noose, and the discus, Sudarshana. The Rishi said, "Of yore, when Mahishasur was the lord of Asuras and Indra the lord of Devas, there was a war between the Devas and Asuras for a full 100 years. In that the army of the Devas was vanquished by the valorous Asuras. After conquering all the Devas, Mahishasur became the lord of heaven. Then the vanquished Devas, headed by Brahma, the lord of beings, went to the place where Shiva and Vishnu were. The Devas described to them in detail as it had happened the story of their defeat wrought by Mahishasur. He, Mahishasur, himself has assumed the jurisdictions of Surya, Indra, Agni, Vayu, Chandra, Yam, and Varun, and other Devas. Thrown out from heaven by that evil-natured Mahish, the hosts of Devas wander on the earth like mortals. All that has been done by the army of the Devas has been related to you both, and we have sought shelter under you both. May both of you be pleased to think out the means of his destruction." Having thus heard the words of the Devas, Vishnu was angry, and also Shiva, and their faces became fierce with frowns. Then issued forth a great light from the face of Vishnu, who was full of intense anger, and from that of Brahma and Shiva too. From the bodies of Indra and other Devas also sprang forth a very great light, and all this light united together. The Devas saw there a concentration of light, like a mountain blazing excessively, pervading all the quarters with its flames. Then that unique light, produced from the bodies of the Devas, pervading the three worlds with its lustre, combined into one and became a female form. By that which was Shiva's light, her face came into being. By Yam's, her hair. By Vishnu's, her arms. By Chandra's, her two breasts. By Indra's, her waist. By Varun's, her shanks and thighs. And by Earth's light, her hips. By Brahma's light, her feet came into being. By Surya's, her toes. By Vasu's, her fingers. By Kuber's, her nose. By Prajapati's light, her teeth came into being. And similarly, by Agni's light, her 3 eyes were formed. The light of the 2 Sandhyas became her eyebrows. The light of Vayu, her ears. The manifestation of the lights of other Devas, too, contributed to the being of the auspicious Devi. Then, looking at her, who had come into being from the assembled lights of the Devas, the immortals who were oppressed by Mahishasur experienced joy. The bearer of Pinak, Shiva, drawing forth a trident from his own trident, presented it to her. Vishnu, bringing forth a discus out of his own discus, gave her. Varun gave her a conch, Agni a spear, Marut a bow, as well as 2 quivers full of arrows. Indra, lord of Devas, bringing forth a thunderbolt out of his own thunderbolt, and a bell from that of his elephant Airavat gave her. Yum gave a staff from his own staff of death, and Varun, the lord of waters, a noose, and Brahma, the lord of beings, gave a string of beads and a water pot. Surya bestowed his own rays on all the pores of her skin, and Gal, time, gave a spotless sword and a shield. The milk ocean gave a pure necklace, a pair of undecaying garments, a divine crest jewel, a pair of earrings, bracelets, a brilliant half-moon ornament, armlets on all arms, a pair of shining anklets, a unique necklace, and excellent rings on all the fingers. Vishvakarman gave her a very brilliant axe, weapons of various forms, and also an impenetrable armor. The ocean gave her a garland of unfading lotuses for her head, and another for her breast, besides a very beautiful lotus in her hand. The mountain Himavat gave her a lion to ride on, and various jewels. The Lord of Wealth, Kuber, gave her a drinking cup ever full of wine. Shesh, the Lord of all serpents, who supports this earth, gave her a serpent necklace bedecked with best jewels, honored likewise by other devas, also with ornaments and weapons. She, the Devi, gave out a loud roar with a defying laugh again and again. By her unending, exceedingly great, terrible roar, the entire sky was filled, and there was great reverberation. All worlds shook, the seas trembled, the earth quaked, and all the mountains rocked. Victory to you, exclaimed the Devas in joy to her, the lion rider. The sages who bowed their bodies in devotion extolled her. Seeing the three worlds agitated, the foes of the Devas mobilized all their armies and rose up together with uplifted weapons. Mahishasur, exclaiming in wrath, "Ha! What is this?" rushed towards that roar, surrounded by innumerable Asuras. Then he saw the Devi, pervading the three worlds with her luster, making the earth bend with her footstep, scraping the sky with her diadem, shaking the netherworlds with the twang of her bowstring, and standing there, pervading all the quarters around her with her 1,000 arms. Then began a battle between that Devi and the enemies of the Devas, in which the quarters of the sky were illumined by the weapons and arms held diversely. Mahishasura's general, a great Asur named Jiksur and Kamar, attended by forces comprising 4 parts, and other Asurs fought. A great Asur named Udagra, with 60,000 chariots, and Mahishasur with 10 million of chariots gave battle. Asiluman, another great Asur, with 15 million of chariots, and Baskal with 6 million fought in that battle. Parivarita, with many thousands of elephants and horses, and surrounded by 10 millions of chariots, fought in that battle. An Asur named Bidal fought in that battle, surrounded with 500 crores of chariots, and other great Asurs, thousands in number, surrounded with chariots, elephants, and horses, fought with the Devi in that battle. Mahishasur was surrounded in that battle with thousands of crores of horses, elephants, and chariots. Other Asurs fought in the battle against the Devi with iron maces and javelins, with spear and clubs, with sword, axes, and halberds. Some hurled spears and others nooses. They began to strike her with swords in order to kill her, showering her own weapons and arms. That Devi Chandika very easily cut into pieces all those weapons and arms, without any strain on her face, and with gods and sages extolling her. The Ishwari threw her weapons and arms at the bodies of the Asurs, and the lion also, which carried the Devi, shaking its mane in rage, stalked among the hosts of the Asurs like a conflagration amidst the forests. The size at which Ambika engaged in battle heaved, became at once her battalions by hundreds and thousands. Energized by the power of the Devi, these battalions fought with axes, javelins, swords, halberds, and destroyed the Asurs. Of these battalions, some beat drums, some blew conches, and others played on tabors in that great martial festival. Then the Devi killed hundreds of Asurs with her trident, club, showers of spears, swords, and the like, and threw down others who were stupefied by the noise of her bell. And binding others with her noose, she dragged them on the ground. Some were split into two by the sharp slashes of her sword, and others smashed by the blows of her mace, lay down on the ground, and some, severely hammered by her club, vomited forth blood. Pierced in the breast by her trident, some fell on the ground. Pierced all over by her arrows and resembling porcupines, some of the enemies of the Devas gave up their lives on that battlefield. Some had their arms cut off, some their necks broken, the heads of others rolled down, some others were torn asunder in the middle of their trunks, and some great asurs fell on the ground with their legs severed. Some rendered one-armed, one-eyed, and one-legged were again clove in twain by the Devi, and others, though rendered headless, fell and rose again. Headless trunks fought with the Devi with best weapons in their hands. Some of these headless trunks danced there in the battle to the rhythm of the musical instruments. The trunks of some other great asurs, with their swords, spears, and lances still in their hands, shouted at the Devi with their just severed heads, "Stop, stop!" That part of earth where the battle was fought became impassable with the asurs, elephants, and horses and chariots that had been felled. The profuse blood from the asurs, elephants, and horses flowed immediately like large rivers amidst that army of the asurs. As fire consumes a huge heap of straw and wood, so did Ambika destroy that vast army of asurs in no time. And her carrier lion, thundering aloud with quivering mane, prowled about in the battlefield, appearing to search out the vital breaths from the bodies of the enemies of the Devas. In that battlefield, the battalions of the Devi fought in such a manner with the Asurs that the Devas in heaven, showering flowers, extolled them. Here ends the second chapter called Slaughtering of the Armies of Mahishasur of Devi Mahatmym in Markandeya Puran during the period of Savarni, the Manu. The Rishi said, Then Jigsaw, the great Asur general, seeing that army being slain by the Devi, advanced in anger to fight with Ambika. That Asur rained showers of arrows on the Devi in the battle, even as a cloud showers rain on the summit of Mount Meru. Then the Devi, easily cutting asunder the masses of his arrows, killed his horses and their controller with her arrows. Forthwith she split his bow and lofty banner, and with her arrows pierced the body of that Asur, whose bow had been cut. His bow shattered, his chariot broken, his horses killed, and his charioteer slain. The Asur, armed with sword and shield, rushed at the Devi. Swiftly he smote the lion on the head with his sharp-edged sword and struck the Devi on her left arm. O king, his sword broke into pieces as it touched her arm. Thereupon, his eyes turning red with anger, he grasped his pike. Then the great Asur flung at Bhadrakali the pike, blazing with lustre as if it was hurling the very sun from the skies. Seeing that pike coming upon her, the Devi hurled her pike, that shattered his pike into 100 fragments, and the great Asur himself. Mahishasur's very valiant general having been killed, Gamur, the afflicter of the Devas, mounted on the elephant, advanced. He also hurled his spear at the Devi. Ambika quickly assailed it with a whoop, made it lustreless and fall to the ground. Seeing his spear broken and fallen, Gamur, full of rage, flung a pike, and she split that also with her arrows. Then the lion, leaping up and seating itself at the center of the elephant's forehead, engaged itself in a hand-to-hand fight with the foe of the Devas. Fighting, the two then came down to the earth from the back of the elephant and fought very impetuously, dealing the most terrible blows at each other. Then the lion, springing up quickly to the sky and descending, severed Gamur's head with a blow from its paw. And Udagra was killed in the battle by the Devi with stones, trees, and the like, and Karau also was stricken down by her teeth and fists and slaps. Enraged, the Devi ground Udat to powder with the blow of her club, and killed Bhaskal with a dart, and destroyed Bamar and Undak with arrows. The three-eyed Supreme Ishwari killed Ugrasya and Ugravir, and Mahanu also with her trident. With her sword she struck down Bidal's head from his body, and dispatched both Durdara and Durmuk to the abode of death with her arrows. As his army was thus being destroyed, Mahishasur, terrified the troops of the Devi with his own buffalo form. Some he laid low by a blow of his muzzle, some by stamping with his hoofs, some by the lashes of his tail, and others by the pokes of his horns. Some he laid low on the face of the earth by impetuous speed, some by the bellowing and wheeling movement, and others by the blast of his breath. Having laid low her army, Mahishasura rushed to slay the lion of the Mahadevi. This enraged Ambika. Mahishasura, great in valor, pounded the surface of the earth with his hooves in rage, tossed up the high mountains with his horns, and bellowed terribly. Crushed by the velocity of his wheeling, the earth disintegrated, and lashed by his tail, the sea overflowed all around. Pierced by his swaying horns, the clouds went into fragments. Cast up by the blast of his breath, mountains fell down from the sky in hundreds. Seeing the great Asura swollen with rage and advancing towards her, Chandika displayed her wrath in order to slay him. She flung her noose over him and bound the great Asura. Thus bound in the great battle, he quitted his buffalo form. Then he became a lion suddenly. While Ambika cut off the head of his lion form, he took the appearance of a man with sword in hand. Immediately then, the Devi with her arrows chopped off the man together with his sword and shield. Then he became a big elephant. The elephant tugged at a great lion with his trunk and roared loudly, but as he was dragging, the Devi cut off his trunk with her sword. The great Asura then resumed his buffalo shape and shook the three worlds with their movable and immovable objects. Enraged thereat, Chandika, the mother of the worlds, quaffed a divine drink again and again, and laughed, her eyes becoming red. And the Asura also roared intoxicated with his strength and valour, and hurled mountains against Chandika with his horns. And she, with showers of arrows, pulverized those mountains hurled at her, and spoke to him in flurried words, the colour of her face accentuated with the intoxication of the divine drink. The Devi said, "Roar, roar, O fool, for a moment while I drink this wine. When you will be slain by me, the Devas will soon roar in this very place." The Rishi said, having exclaimed thus, she jumped and landed herself on that great Asura, pressed him on the neck with her foot, and struck him with her spear. And thereupon, caught up under her foot, Mahishasura half issued forth in his real form from his own buffalo mouth, being completely overcome by the valour of the Devi. Fighting thus with the half-revealed form, the great Asura was laid by the Devi, who struck off his head with her great sword. Then, crying in consternation, the whole Asura army perished, and all the Asuras of Devas were in great exultation. With the great sages of heaven, the Devas praised the Devi, the Gandharva chiefs sang, and the bevies of Apsaras danced. Here ends the third chapter called The Slaying of Mahishasura of Devi Mahatmym in Markandeya Puran during the period of Sarani the Manu. The Rishi said, when the most valiant but evil-natured Mahishasura and the army of that foe of Devas were destroyed by the Devi, Indra and the hosts of Devas uttered their words of praise, their necks and shoulders reverently bent, and bodies rendered beautiful with horripilation and exaltation. To that Ambika, who is worthy of worship by all Devas and sages, and pervades this world by her power, and who is the embodiment of the entire powers of all the hosts of Devas, we bow in devotion. May she grant us auspicious things. May Chandika, whose incomparable greatness and power Bhagavan Vishnu, Brahma and her are unable to describe, bestow her mind on protecting the entire world and on destroying the fear of evil. O Devi, we bow before you, who are yourself good fortune in the dwellings of the virtuous, and ill fortune in those of the vicious, intelligence in the hearts of the learned, faith in the hearts of the good, and modesty in the hearts of the high-born. May you protect the universe. O Devi, how can we describe your inconceivable form, or your abundant surpassing valour that destroys the Asuras, or your wonderful feats displayed in battles among all the hosts of gods, Asuras, and others? You are the origin of all the worlds. Though you are possessed of the three gunas, you are not known to have any of their attendant defects, like passion. You are incomprehensible even to Vishnu, Shiva, and others. You are the resort of all. This entire world is composed of an infinitesimal portion of yourself. You are verily the supreme primordial Prakriti, untransformed. O Devi, you are Swaha, at whose utterance the whole assemblage of gods attains satisfaction in all the sacrifices. You are the Swada, which gives satisfaction to the mains. Therefore you are chanted as Swaha and Swada in sacrifices by people. O Devi, you are Bhagavati, the supreme Vidya, which is the cause of liberation, and great inconceivable penances are the means for your realization. You, the supreme knowledge, are cultivated by sages desiring liberation, whose senses are well restrained, who are devoted to reality and have shed all the blemishes. You are the soul of Shabd Brahman. You are the repository of the very pure Ruk and Yajur hymns and Samans, the recital of whose words is beautiful with the Udgit. You are Bhagavati, embodying the three Vedas, and you are the sustentation whereby life is maintained. You are the supreme destroyer of the pain of all the worlds. O Devi, you are the intellect by which the essence of all scriptures is comprehended. You are Durga, the boat that takes men across the difficult ocean of worldly existence, devoid of attachments. You are Shri, who has invariably taken her abode in the heart of Vishnu. You are indeed Gauri, who has established herself with Shiva. Gently smiling, pure, resembling the full moon's orb, beautiful like the splendor of excellent gold was your face. Yet it was very strange that, being swayed by anger, Mahishasura suddenly struck your face when he saw it. Far strange it is that after seeing your wrathful face, O Devi, terrible with its frowns and red in hue like the rising moon, that Mahishasura did not forthwith give up his life. For who can live after beholding the enraged destroyer? O Devi, be propitious. You are supreme. If enraged, you forthwith destroy the Asura families for the welfare of the world. This was known the very moment when the extensive forces of Mahishasura were brought to their end. You are always bounteous, with whom you are well pleased. Those fortunate ones are indeed the object of esteem in the country. Theirs are riches, theirs are glories, and their acts of righteousness perish not. They are indeed blessed and possessed of devoted children, servants, and wives. By your grace, O Devi, the blessed individual does daily all righteous deeds with utmost care, and thereby attains to heaven. Are you not therefore, O Devi, the bestower of reward in all the three worlds? When called to mind in a difficult task, you remove fear for every person. When called to mind by those in happiness, you bestow a mind still further pious. Which goddess but you, O dispeller of poverty, pain, and fear, has an ever sympathetic heart for helping everyone? The world attains happiness by the killing of these foes, and though these asuras have committed sins to keep them long in hell, let them reach heaven by meeting death eventually at the battle with me, thinking thus that you, O Devi, certainly destroy our enemies. Don't you reduce to ashes all asuras by mere sight, but you direct your weapons against them, so that even the inimical ones, purified by the missiles, may attain the higher worlds. Such is your most kindly intention towards them. If the eyes of the asuras had not been put out by the terrible flashes of the mass of light issuing from your sword, or by the copious lustre of your spear point, it is because they saw also your face resembling the moon, giving out cool rays. O Devi, your nature is to subdue the conduct of the wicked. This your peerless beauty is inconceivable for others. Your power destroys those who have robbed the Devas of their prowess, and you have thus manifested your compassion even towards the enemies. What is your prowess to be compared to? Where can one find this beauty of yours, most charming, yet striking fear in enemies? Compassion in heart and relentlessness in battle are seen, O Devi, O bestower of boons, only in you, in all the three worlds. Through the destruction of the enemies, all these three worlds have been saved by you. Having killed them in the battlefront, you have led even those hosts of enemies to heaven, and you have dispelled our fear from the frenzied enemies of the Devas. Salutations to you. O Devi, protect us with your spear. O Ambika, protect us with your sword. Protect us by the sound of your bell and by the twang of your bowstring. O Chandika, guard us in the east, in the west, in the north, and in the south by the brandishing of your spear, O Ishwari. Protect us and the earth with those lovely forms of yours moving about in the three worlds, as also with your excludingly terrible forms. O Ambika, protect us on every side with your sword, spear, and club, and whatever other weapon your sprout-like soft hand has touched. The Rishi said, the supporter of the world was praised by the Devas, worshipped with celestial flowers that blossomed in Nandana, and with perfumes and unguents, and with devotion all of them offered her heavenly incense. Benignly serene in countenance, she spoke to all obeisant Devas. The Devi said, choose all of you, O Devas, whatever you desire of me. The Devas said, since our enemy, this Mahishasura, has been slain by Bhagavati, everything has been accomplished, and nothing remains to be done. And if a boon is to be granted to us by you, O Maheshwari, whenever we think of you again, destroy our direct calamities. O Mother of spotless countenance, and whatever mortal shall praise you with these hymns, may you, who have become gracious towards us, be also for his increase in his wealth, wife, and other fortunes, together with riches, prosperity, and life, O Ambika. The Rishi said, O King, being thus propitiated by the Devas for the sake of the world, and for their own sake, Bhadrakali said, be it so, and vanished from their sight. Thus have I narrated, O King, how the Devi, who desires the good of all the three worlds, made her appearance of yore out of the bodies of the Devas, and again how, as benefactress of the Devas, she appeared in the form of Gauri for the slaying of the wicked Asuras, as well as Shumb and Nishum, and for the protection of worlds. Listen, as I relate it, I shall tell it to you as it happens. Here ends the fourth chapter called Praises by Shakra and others of Devi Mahatmym in the Markandeya Puran during the period of Savarni, the Manu. Meditation on Mahasaraswati. I meditate on the incomparable Mahasaraswati, who holds in her 8 lotus-like hands bell, trident, plough, conch, mace, discus, bow and arrow, who is effulgent like the moon shining at the fringe of a cloud, who is the destroyer of Shumba and other Asuras, who issued forth from Parvati's body, and is the substratum of the three worlds. The Rishi said, of yore, Indra's sovereignty over the three worlds, and his portion of the sacrifices were taken away by the Asuras, Shumb and Nishum, by force of their pride and strength. The two themselves took over likewise the offices of the sun, moon, Kuber, Yam, and Varun. They themselves exercised Vayu's authority and Agni's duty. Deprived of their lordships and sovereignties, the Devas were defeated. Deprived of their functions and expelled by these two great Asuras, all the Devas thought of the invincible Devi. She had granted us the boon. Whenever in calamities you think of me, that very moment I will put an end to all your worst calamities. Resolving thus, the Devas went to Himavat, lord of the mountains, and there extolled the Devi, who is the elusive power of Vishnu. The Devas said, salutation to the Devi, to the Mahadevi. Salutation always to her who is ever auspicious. Salutation to her who is the primordial cause and the sustaining power. With attention we have made obeisance to her. Salutation to her who is terrible, to her who is eternal. Is salutation to Gauri, the supporter of the universe. Salutation always to her who is the form of the moon and moonlight and happiness itself. We bow to her who is welfare. We make salutation to her who is prosperity and success. Salutation to the consort of Shiva, who is herself the good fortune as well as the misfortune of kings. Salutations always to Durga, who takes one across in difficulties, who is essence, who is the author of everything, who is knowledge of discrimination, and who is blue-black, as also smoke-like in complexion. We prostrate before her, who is at once most gentle and most terrible. We salute her again and again. Salutation to her who is the support of the world. Salutation to the Devi, who is of the form of volition. Salutations again and again to the Devi, who in all beings is called Vishnumaya. Salutation again and again to the Devi, who abides in all beings as consciousness, intelligence, sleep, hunger, reflection, power, thirst, forgiveness, gentleness, modesty, peace, faith, loveliness, good fortune, activity, memory, compassion, contentment, mother, error, to the all-pervading Devi who constantly presides over the senses of all beings and governs all the elements. Salutations again and again to her who, pervading this entire world, abides in the form of consciousness, invoked of yore by the Devas for the sake of their desired object, and adored by the Lord of the Devas every day. May she, the Ishwari, the source of all good, accomplish for us all auspicious things and put an end to our calamities. And who is now again reverenced by us Devas, tormented by arrogant Asuras, and who, called to mind by us, abased with devotion, destroys this very moment all our calamities. The Rishi said, O Prince, while the Devas were thus engaged in praises and other acts of adoration, Parvati came there to bathe in the waters of the Ganga. She, the lovely bride, said to the Devas, Who is praised by you here? An auspicious goddess sprung forth from her physical sheath, gave the reply, This hymn is addressed to me by the assembled Devas, set at naught by the Asur, Shumb, and rooted in battle by Nishum. Because that Ambika came out of Parvati's physical sheath, her Ghosh, she is glorified as Goshaki in all the worlds. After she had issued forth, Parvati became dark and was called Kalika, and stationed on Mount Himalaya. Then Chand and Mund, two servants of Shumb and Nishum, saw the Ambika, bearing a surpassingly charming form. They both told Shumb, O king, a certain woman, most surpassingly beautiful, dwells there, shedding lustre on Mount Himalaya. Such supreme beauty was never seen by anyone anywhere. Ascertain who that goddess is, and take possession of her, O Lord of the Asuras. A gem among women, of exquisitely beautiful limbs, illuminating the quarters with her lustre, there she is, O Lord of the Daityas. You should see her. O Lord, whatever jewels, precious stones, elephants, horses, and others there are in the three worlds, they are all now in your house. Airavat, gem among elephants, has been brought away from Indra, and so also this Parijata tree and the horse Ucheshravas. Here stands in your courtyard the wonderful chariot yoked with swans, a wonderful gem of its class. It has been brought here from Brahma, to whom it originally belonged. Here is the treasure named Mahapadma, brought from the Lord of Wealth, and the ocean gave a garland named Ginjalkini, made of unfading lotus flowers. In your house stands the gold-showering umbrella of Varun, and here is the excellent chariot that was formerly Prajapati's. By you, O Lord, Death's Shakti weapon, named Utkrandita, has been carried off. The noose of the Ocean King is among your brother's possessions. Nishum has every kind of gem produced in the sea. Fire also gave you 2 garments which are purified by fire. Thus, O Lord of Asuras, all gems have been brought by you. Why this beautiful lady jewel is not seized by you? The Rishi said, on hearing these words of Chandamund, Shum sent a great Asur, Sugriv, as messenger to the Devi. He said, Go and tell her in my words, and do the thing in such a manner that she may come quickly to me in love. He went there where the Devi was staying in a very beautiful spot on the mountain, and spoke to her in fine and sweet words. The messenger said, O Devi, Shumb, Lord of Asuras, is the supreme sovereign of 3 worlds. Sent by him as messenger, I have come here to your presence. Hearken to what has been said by him, whose command is never resisted among the Devas, and who has vanquished all the foes of the Asuras. He says, all the 3 worlds are mine, and the Devas are obedient to me. I enjoy all their haras in sacrifices separately. All the choicest gems in the 3 worlds are in my possession, and so is the gem of elephants, Airavat, the vehicle of the king of Devas carried away by me. The Devas themselves offered to me with salutations that gem of horses named Ucheshravas, which arose at the churning of milk ocean. O beautiful lady, whatever other rare objects there existed among the Devas, Gandharvas and Nagas are now with me. We look upon you, O Devi, as the jewel of womankind in the world. You are such, come to me, such we are the enjoyers of the best objects. Take to me, O my younger brother Nishum, of great prowess, O unsteady-eyed lady, for you are true in truth a jewel. Wealth, great and beyond compare, you will get by marrying me. Think over this in your mind and become my wife. The Rishi said, thus told, Durga, adorable and auspicious, by whom this universe is supported, then became serene, and said, you have spoken truth. Nothing false has been uttered by you in this matter. Shumb is indeed the sovereign of the three worlds, and likewise is also Nishum. But in this matter, how can that which has been promised by me be made false? Hear what promise I had made already out of foolishness. He who conquers me in battle, removes my pride, and is my match in strength in the world, shall be my husband. So let Shumb come here then, or Nishum, the great Asur, vanquishing me here. Let him soon take my hand in marriage. Why delay? The messenger said, O Devi, you are haughty. Talk not before me. Which man in the three worlds will stand before Shumb and Nishum? All the Devas verily cannot stand face to face with even the other Asurs in battle. Why mention you, O Devi, a single woman? Indra and all other Devas could not stand in battle against Shumb and other demons. How will you, a woman, face them? On my word itself, you go to Shumb and Nishum. Let it not be that you go to them with your dignity lost by being dragged by your hair. The Devi said, yes, it is Shumb is strong, and so is Nishum exceedingly heroic. What can I do, since there stands my ill-considered vow taken long ago? Go back and tell the Lord of Asurs carefully all that I have said. Let him do whatever he considers proper. Here ends the 5th chapter called Devi's conversation with the messenger of Devi Mahatmym in Markandeya Puran during the period of Sarani the Manu. The Rishi said, the messenger, filled with indignation on hearing the words of Devi, returned and related them in detail to the king of the Daityas. Then the Asur monarch, enraged on hearing that report from his messenger, told Dhumralochan, a chieftain of the Daityas, O Dhumralochan, hasten together with your army and fetch here by force that shrew distressed when dragged by her hair. Or if anyone else stands up as a saviour, let him be slain, be a god, a yaksh or Gandharva. The Rishi said, then the Asur Dhumralochan, commanded thus by Shumb, went forth quickly accompanied by 60,000 Asurs. On seeing the Devi stationed on the snowy mountain, he asked her aloud, come to the presence of Shumb and Nishum. If you will not go to the Lord with pleasure, now, here I take you by force, distressed when dragged by your hair. The Devi said, you are sent by the Lord of the Asurs, mighty yourself, and accompanied by an army. If you thus take me by force, then what can I do to you? The Rishi said, thus told, the Asur Dhumralochan rushed towards her, and thereupon Ambika reduced him to ashes with a mere heave of the sound, hum. Then the great army of Asurs became enraged and showered on Ambika sharp arrows, javelins, and axes. Then the lion, vehicle of the Devi, shaking its mane in anger and making the most terrific roar, fell on the army of the Asurs. Some Asurs it slaughtered with a blow of its forepaw, others with its mouth, and other great Asurs by treading over with its hind legs. The lion with its claws tore out the hearts of some and severed heads with a blow of the paw, and it severed arms and heads from others, and shaking its mane, drank the blood from the heart of others. In a moment all that army was destroyed by the high-spirited and exceedingly enraged lion who bore the Devi. When Shumb, the lord of Asurs, heard that Asur Dhumralochan was slain by the Devi, and all his army was destroyed by the lion of the Devi, he was infuriated, his lip quivered, and he commanded the two mighty Asurs, Jund and Mund, O Jund, O Mund, go there with large forces and bring her here speedily, dragging her by her hair, or binding her. But if you have any doubt about doing that, then let the Asurs strike her in the fight with her with all their weapons. When that shrew is wounded and a lion stricken down, seize that Ambika, bind and bring her quickly. Here ends the 6th chapter called The Slaying of Dhumralochan of Devi Mahatmym in Markandeya Puran during the period of Sarani the Manu. The Rishi said, then at his command the Asur, fully armed, with Jandamund at the head, marched in fourfold array. They saw the Devi smiling gently, seated upon the lion on a huge golden peak of the great mountain. On seeing her, some of them excited themselves and made an effort to capture her, and others approached her with their bows bent and swords drawn. Thereupon Ambika became terribly angry with those foes, and in her anger her countenance then became dark as ink. Out from the surface of her forehead, fierce with frown, issued suddenly Kali, of terrible countenance, armed with a sword and noose, bearing this strange skull-topped staff, decorated with a garland of skulls, clad in a tiger's skin, very appalling owing to her emaciated flesh, with gaping mouth, fearful, with her tongue lolling out, having deep sunk reddish eyes, and filling the regions of the sky with her roars, and falling upon impetuously, and slaughtering the great Asurs in that army, she devoured those hosts of the foes of the Devas. Snatching the elephants with one hand, she flung them into her mouth, together with their rear men and drivers and their warrior riders and bells. Taking likewise into her mouth the cavalry with horses and chariot with its driver, she ground them most frightfully with her teeth. She seized one by the hair and another by the neck. One she crushed by the weight of her foot, another of her body. And she caught with her mouth the weapons and the great arms shot by those Asurs, and crunched them up with her teeth in her fury. She destroyed all the host of mighty and evil-natured Asurs, devoured some and battered others. Some were killed by her sword, some were beaten with her skull-topped staff, and other Asurs met her death, being ground with the edge of her teeth. On seeing all the hosts of the Asurs laid low, in a moment Chand rushed against the Kali, who was exceedingly terrible. The great Asur Chand was very terrible, showering of arrows, and Mund with discuses hurled in thousands covered that terrible-eyed Devi. Those numerous discuses disappearing into her mouth looked like numerous solar orbs disappearing into the midst of the mountain. Thereat Kali, who was roaring frightfully, his fearful teeth were gleaming within her dreadful mouth, laughed terribly with exceeding fury. Then the Devi, mounting upon her great lion, rushed at Chand, and seizing him by his hair, severed his head by her sword. Seeing Chand laid low, Mund also rushed at her. She felled him also to the ground, striking him with the sword in her fury. Seeing the most valiant Chand and Mund laid low, the remaining army there became panicky and fled in all directions. And Kali, holding the head of Chand and Mund in her hands, approached Chandika and said, her words mingled with very loud laughter, "Here have I brought you the heads of Chand and Mund as the two great animal offerings in the sacrifice of battle. Shumb and Nishumb you shall slay yourself." The Rishi said, thereupon, seeing those Asurs Chand and Mund brought to her, the auspicious Chandika said to Kali these playful words, "Because you have brought me both Chand and Mund, you, O Devi, shall be famed in the world by the name Chamund." Here ends the 7th chapter called The Slaying of Chand and Mund by Devi Mahatmym in Markandeya Puran during the period of Savarni the Manu. The Rishi said, after the Daitya Chand was slain and Mund was laid low, and many of the battalions were destroyed, the lord of the Asurs, powerful Shumb, with mind overcome by anger, commanded then the mobilization of all the Daitya hosts. Now let the 86 Asurs appraising their weapons with all their forces, and the 84 Kumbhos surrounded by their own forces go out. Let the 50 Asur families of Kotiviryas and the 100 families of Domras go forth at my command. Let the Asurs, Kalakas, Dordas, the Mauryas and Kalakayas hasten at my command and march forth ready for battle. After issuing these orders, Shum, the lord of the Asurs, and the ferocious ruler went forth, attended by many thousands of big forces. Seeing that most terrible army coming, Chandika filled into space between the earth and the sky with the twang of her bowstring. Thereupon her lion made an exceedingly loud roar, O king, and Ambika magnified those roars with the clanging of her bell. Kali, expanding her mouth wide and filling the quarters with the sound hum, overwhelmed the noises of her bowstring, lion and bell by her terrific roars. On hearing that roar, the enraged Asur battalions surrounded the lion, the Devi, and Kali on all the four sides. At this moment, O king, in order to annihilate the enemies of the Devas and for the well-being of the supreme Devas, there issued forth, endeavoring with exceeding vigor and strength, Shaktis from the bodies of Brahma, Shiv, Gu, Vishnu, and Indra, and with the form of those Devas went to Chandika. Whatever was the form of each Deva, and whatever his ornaments and vehicle, in that very form he Shakti advanced to fight with the Asuras. In a heavenly chariot drawn by swans advanced Brahma Shakti, carrying a rosary and a kamandalu. She is called Brahmini. Maheshwari arrived seated on a bull, holding a fine trident, wearing bracelets of great snakes, and adorned with a digit of the moon. Ambika Kaumari, in the form of Gu, holding a spear in hand, riding on a fine peacock, advanced to attack the Asuras. Likewise, the Shakti of Vishnu came seated upon Garud, holding conch, club, bow, and sword in hand. The Shakti of Hari, who assumed the incomparable form of a sacrificial boar, she also advanced there in a boar-like form. Narsimhi arrived there, assuming a body like that of Narsimha, bringing down the constellations by the toss of her mane. Likewise, the thousand-eyed Indri, holding a thunderbolt in hand and riding on the lord of elephants, arrived just like Indra. Then Shiva, surrounded by those Shaktis of the Devas, said to Chandika, "Let the Asuras be killed forthwith by you for my gratification." Thereupon, from the body of the Devi issued forth a Shakti of Chandika, most terrific, exceedingly fierce, and yelling like 100 jackals. And that invincible Shakti told Shiva of dark-coloured matted locks, "Go, my lord, as ambassador to the presence of Shumb and Nishum. Tell the two haughty Asuras, Shumb and Nishum, and the other Asuras assemble there for battle. Let Indra obtain the three worlds, and let the Devas enjoy the sacrificial oblations. You go to the netherworlds if you wish to live. But if through pride of strength you are anxious for battle, come on then, let my jackals be satiated with your flesh." Because that Devi appointed Shiva himself as ambassador, thenceforth she became renowned in this world as Shivduti. Those great Asuras, on their part, hearing the words of the Devi communicated by Shiva, were filled with indignation and went where Katyayani stood. Then, in the very beginning, the enraged foes of the Devas poured in front of the Devi showers of arrows, javelins, and spears, and lightly, with the huge arrows shot from her full-drawn bow, she clove those arrows, spears, darts, and axes held by them. Then, in front of Shum, stalked Kali, piercing the enemies to pieces with her spear and crushing them with her skull-topped staff. And Brahmini, wherever she moved, made the enemies bereft of valor and prowess by sprinkling on them the water from her kamandalu. The very wrathful Maheshwari slew the Daityas with a trident, and Vaishnavi with her discus, and Kaumari with a javelin. Torn to pieces by the thunderbolt which had come down upon them, hurled by Indri, the Daityas and Danavas fell on the earth in hundreds, streams of blood flowing out of them. Shattered by the ball-formed goddess Vahari with blows of her snout, wounded in their chests by the points of her tusks, and torn by her discus, the Asuras fell down. Narsimhi, filling all the quarters and the sky with her roars, roamed about in the battle, devouring other great Asuras torn by her claws. Demoralized by the violent laughter of Shivduti, the Asuras fell down on the earth, and then devoured them who had fallen down. She, the enraged band of Matas, crushing the great Asuras thus by various means, the troops of the enemies of Devas took to their heels. Seeing the Asuras harassed by the band of Matas and fleeing, the great Asur, Raktabij, strode forward to fight in wrath. Whenever from his body there fell to the ground a drop of blood, at that moment rose up from the earth Asuras of his stature. The great Asur fought with Indra Shakti with club in hand. Then Indri also struck Raktabij with her thunderbolt. Blood flowed quickly and profusely from him, who was wounded by the thunderbolt. From the blood rose up fresh combatants of his form and valour. As many drops of blood fell from the body, so many persons came into being with his courage, strength, and valour. And those persons also sprung up from his blood, fought there with the Matas a more dreadful manner, hurling the very formidable weapons. And again, when his head was wounded by the fall of her thunderbolt, his blood flowed, and therefrom were born persons in thousands. Vaishnavi struck him with a discus in the battle. Indri beat the lord of Asurs with a club. The world was pervaded by thousands of great Asurs who were of his stature, and who rose up from the blood that flowed from him when cloven by the discus of Vaishnavi. Gomari struck the great Asur Raktabij with the spear, Vahari with the sword, and Maheshwari with the trident. And Raktabij, that great Asur, also filled with wrath, struck every one of the Matas severally with his club. From the stream of blood which fell on the earth from him, when he received multiple wounds by the spears, darts, and other weapons, hundreds of Asurs came into being. And those Asurs that were born from the blood of Raktabij pervaded the world. The Devas got intensely alarmed. Seeing the Devas dejected, Chandika laughed and said to Kali, "O Jaman, open out your mouth wide. With this mouth quickly take the drops of blood generated by the blow of my weapon, and also the great Asurs born of the drops of blood of Raktabij. Roam about in the battlefield, devouring the great Asurs that spring from him. So shall this Daitya, with his blood emptied, perish. As you go on devouring, these other fierce Asurs will not be born." Having enjoined her thus, the Devi next smote Raktabij with a dart. Then Kali drank Raktabij's blood with her mouth. Then and there he struck Chandika with his club. The blow of his club caused her not even the slightest pain. And from his stricken body, wherever blood flowed copiously, there Jamund swallowed it with her mouth. The Jamund devoured those great Asurs who sprang up from the flow of her blood in her mouth, and drank Raktabij's blood. The Devi Kaushiki smote Raktabij with a dart, thunderbolts, arrows, sword, and spear, when Jamund went on drinking his blood. Stricken with a multitude of weapons and bloodless, the great Asur Raktabij fell on the ground, O king. Thereupon the Devas attained great joy, O king. The band of Matas who sprang from them danced, being intoxicated with blood. Here ends the 8th chapter, called The Slaying of Raktabij of Devi Mahatmym in Markandeya Puran during the period of Saurani the Manu. The king Surat said, "Wonderful is this that you, adorable sir, have related to me about the greatness of the Devi's acts in slaying Raktabij. I wish to hear further what the very irate Shumb and Nishum did after Raktabij was killed." The Rishi said, "After Raktabij was slain and other Asurs were killed in the fight, the Asur Shumb and Nishum gave way to unbounded wrath. Enraged on seeing his army slaughtered, Nishum then rushed forward with the chief forces of the Asurs. In front of him, behind him, and on both sides of him, great Asurs, enraged and biting their lips, advanced to slay the Devi. Shumb, also mighty in valour, went forward, surrounded with his own troops, to slay Chandika in his rage, after fighting with the Matas. Then commenced severe combat between the Devi on one side, and on the other Shumb and Nishum, who, like two thunderclouds, rained a most tempestuous shower of arrows on her. Chandika, with numerous arrows, quickly split the arrows shot by the two Asurs, and smote the two lords of the Asurs on their limbs with her mass of weapons. Nishum, grasping a sharp sword and a shining shield, struck the lion, the great carrier of the Devi, on the head. When her carrier was struck, the Devi quickly cut Nishum's sword with a sharp-edged arrow, and also his shield, on which 8 moons were figured. When his shield was split and his sword too broken, the Asur hurled his spear, and that missile also, as it advanced towards her, was split into 2 by her discus. Then the down of Nishum, swelling with wrath, seized a dart, and that also, as it came, the Devi powdered with a blow of her fist. Then, brandishing his club, he flung it against Chandika. Cleft by the trident of the Devi, it also turned into ashes. Then the Devi assailed the heroic Danav, advancing with battle axe in hand, and laid him low on the ground. When his brother Nishumb of terrific prowess fell to the ground, Shumb got infuriated in the extreme and strode forward to slay Ambika. Standing in his chariot and grasping excellent weapons in his long and incomparable 8 arms, he shone by, pervading the entire sky. Seeing him approaching, the Devi blew her conch and made a twang of a bowstring which was unbearable in the extreme. And the Devi filled all directions with the ringing of a bell, which destroys the strength of all the deity hosts. The lion filled the heavens, the earth, and the 10 quarters of the sky with loud roars, which made the elephants give up their violent rut. Then Kali, springing upwards in the sky, came down and struck the earth with both her hands. By its noise, all the previous sounds were drowned. Shivdutti made a loud ominous peal of laughter. The Asuras were frightened by the sounds, and Shumb flew into an utmost rage. As Ambika said, "O evil-natured one, stop, stop!" The Devas stationed in the sky cheered her with the words, "Be victorious!" The spear flaming most terribly and shining like a mass of fire, which Shumb approaching hurled was, as it was coming along, put out by a great firebrand from the Devi. The interspace between the 3 worlds was pervaded by Shum's lion-like roar, but the dreadful thunderclap of the Devi smothered that, O king. The Devi split the arrows shot by Shum, and Shum also split the arrows discharged by her, each with her and his sharp arrows in hundreds and thousands. Then Chandika became angry and smote him with a trident. Wounded therewith, he fainted and fell to the ground. Then Nishumb, regaining consciousness, seized his bow and struck with arrows the Devi, the Kali, and the lion. And the Danuj Lord, the son of Diti, putting forth a myriad arms, covered Chandika with myriad discuses. Then Bhagavati Durga, the destroyer of difficulties and affliction, became angry and split those discuses and those arrows with her own arrows. Thereupon Nishum, surrounded by the Daitya host, swiftly seized his club, rushed at Chandika to slay her. As he was just rushing at her, Chandika clove his club with her sharp-edged sword, and he took hold of a dart. As Nishum, the afflictor of the Devas, was advancing with the dart in hand, Chandika pierced him in the heart and swiftly held with the swiftly hurled dart. From Nishum's heart that was pierced by the dart issued forth another person of great strength and valor, exclaiming at the Devi, "Stop!" Then the Devi, laughing loud, severed the head of him who had issued forth with her sword. Thereupon he fell to the ground. The lion then devoured those Asuras whose necks he had crushed with his fierce teeth, and Kali and Shivdutti devoured others. Some great Asuras perished, being pierced through by the spear of Golmari. Others were repulsed by sprinkling of water purified by the incantations of Brahmini. Others fell, pierced by a trident wielded by the Maheshwari. Some were powdered on the ground by the blows from the snout of Vahari. Some Danavs were cut to pieces by the discus of Vaishnavi, and others again by the thunderbolt discharged from the palm of Indri. Some Asuras perished themselves, some fled from the great battle, and others were devoured by Kali, Shivdutti, and the lion. Here ends the 9th chapter, called The Slaying of Nishum of Devi Mahatmym in Markandeya Puran during the period of Savarni the Manu. The Rishi said, seeing his brother Nishum slain, who was dear to him as his life, and his army being slaughtered, Shum angrily said, "O Durga, who are puffed up with the pride of strength, don't show your pride here. Though you are exceedingly haughty, you resorting to the strength of others, fight." The Devi said, "I'm all alone in the world here. Who else is there besides me? See, O vile one, these goddesses who are but my own powers entering into my own self." Then all those, Brahmini and the rest, were absorbed in the body of the Devi. Ambika alone then remained. The Devi said, "The numerous forms which I projected by my power here, those have been withdrawn by me, and I stand alone. Be steadfast in combat." The Rishi said, "Then began a dreadful battle between them both, the Devi and Shum, while all the Devas and Asuras looked on. With showers of arrows, with sharp weapons and frightful missiles, both engaged again in a combat that frightened all the worlds. Then the Lord of the Deities broke the divine missiles, which Ambika discharged in hundreds with weapons that repulsed them. With fierce shout of hum and the like, the Parameshwari playfully broke the excellent missiles that he discharged. Then the Asur covered the Devi with hundreds of arrows, and the Devi in wrath split his bow with her arrows. And when the bow was split, the Lord of the Deities took up his spear. With a discus, the Devi split that spear also in his hand. Next, the supreme monarch of the Deities, taking his sword, bright like the sun, and shining shield bearing the images of 100 moons, rushed at the Devi at that moment. Just as he was rushing forward, Chandika split his sword, and sharp arrows shot from her bow, as also his shield as bright as the solar rays. With his steed slain, with his bow broken, without a charioteer, the Daitya then grasped his terrible mace, being ready to kill Ambika. With sharp arrows she split the mace of Shum, who was rushing at her. Even then, raising his fist, he rushed swiftly at her. The Daitya lord brought his fist down on the heart of the Devi, and the Devi also with her palm smote him on his chest. The Daitya king, wounded by the blow of her palm, fell on the earth, but immediately he rose up again. Seizing the Devi, he sprang up and mounted on high into the sky. There also Chandika, without any support, fought with him. Then the Daitya, Shum, and Chandika fought as never before with each other in the sky in a close contact, which brought surprise to the Siddhas and sages. Ambika then, after carrying on a close fight for a very long time with him, lifted him up, whirled him around, and flung him down on the earth. Flung thus, the evil-natured Shum, reaching the earth and raising his fist, hastily rushed forward, desiring to kill Chandika. Seeing the lord of all the Daitya folk approaching the Devi, piercing him on the chest with a dart, threw him down on the earth. Pierced by the pointed dart of the Devi, he fell, lifeless, on the ground, shaking the entire earth with its seas, islands, and mountains. When that evil-natured Asur was slain, the universe became happy and regained perfect peace, and the sky grew clear. Flaming portent clouds that were in evidence before that became tranquil, and the rivers kept within their courses when Shum was stricken down there. When he had been slain, the minds of the bands of Devas became overjoyed, and the Gandharvas sang sweetly. Others sounded their instruments, and the bands of nymphs danced likewise. Favourable winds blew, the sun became very brilliant, the sacred fires blazed peacefully, and tranquil became the strange sounds that had risen in different quarters. Here ends the 10th chapter, called The Slaying of Shum of Devi Mahatmym in Markandeya Puran during the period of Savarni and Manu. The Rishi said, when the great lord of Asuras was slain there by the Devi, Indra and other Devas led by Agni, with their object fulfilled and their cheerful faces illumining the quarters, praised her Katyayani. O Devi, you who remove the sufferings of your suppliants, be gracious, be propitious, O Mother of the whole world. Be gracious, O Mother of the universe, protect the universe. You are, O Devi, the ruler of all that is moving and unmoving. You are the sole substratum of the world, because you subsist in the form of the earth. By you, who exist in the shape of water, all this universe is gratified, O Devi, of inviolable valor. You are the power of Vishnu and have endless valor. You are the primeval Maya, which is the source of the universe. By you, all this universe has been thrown into illusion, O Devi. If you become gracious, you become the cause of final emancipation in this world. All laws are your aspects of Devi. So are all worlds, and so are all women in the world, endowed with various attributes. By you alone, the Mother, this world is filled. What praise can there be for you, who are of the nature of primary and secondary expression regarding objects worthy of praise. When you have been lauded as the embodiment of all beings, the Devi, the effulgent one, and bestower of the enjoyment and liberation, what words, however excellent, can praise you? Salutation be to you, O Devi Narayani, O you who abide as intelligence in the hearts of all creatures and bestow enjoyment and liberation. Salutation be to you, O Narayani, O you who, in the form of minutes, moments, and other divisions of time, bring about change in things and have thus the power to destroy the universe. Salutation be to you, O Narayani, O you who are the good of all good, O auspicious Devi, who accomplish every object, the giver of refuge, O three-eyed Gauri. Salutations be to you, O Narayani, you who have the power of creation, sustentation, and destruction and are eternal. You are the substratum and embodiment of the three gunas. Salutation be to you, O Narayani, O you who are intent on saving the dejected and distressed that take refuge under you. O you, Devi, who remove the suffering of all. Salutations be to you, O Narayani, O you who ride in the heavenly chariot yoked with swans and assume the form of Brahmini, O Devi, who sprinkle water with kush grass. Salutation be to you, O Narayani, O you who bear the trident, the moon and the serpent, and ride a big bull, and have the form of Maheshwari. Salutation be to you, O Narayani, O you who are attended by peacock in cock, and bear a great spear, O you who are sinless and take the form of Gomari. Salutation be to you, O Narayani, O you who hold the great weapons of conch, discus, club, and bow, and take the form of Vaishnavi. Be gracious. Salutation be to you, O Narayani, O you who grasp a huge formidable discus, and uplift the earth with thy tusk, O auspicious Devi, who has a bull-like form. Salutations be to you, O Narayani, O you who in the fierce form of a man-lion put forth your efforts to slay the Daityas, O you who possess the benevolence of saving the three worlds. Salutations be to you, O Narayani, you who have a diadem and a great thunderbolt, are dazzling with 1,000 eyes, and took away the life of Vrutra, O Indri. To you, O Narayani, O you who in the form of Shivduti slew the mighty hosts of the Daityas, O you of terrible form and loud throat. Salutations be to you, O Narayani, O you who have a face terrible with tusks, and are adorned with a garland of heads, Jamund, O slayer of Mund. Salutations be to you, O Narayani, O you who are good fortune, modesty, great wisdom, faith, nourishment, and svada. O you who are immovable, O you, great night and great illusion. Salutation be to you, O Narayani, O you who are intelligence and Saraswati, O best one, prosperity, consort of Vishnu, dark one, nature be propitious. O queen of all, you who exist in the form of all, and possess every might, save us from error, O Devi. Salutation be to you, Devi Durga. May this benign countenance of yours, adorned with 3 eyes, protect us from all fears. Salutations be to you, O Katyayani, terrible with flames, exceedingly sharp, destroyer of all the Asuras. May your trident guard us from fear. Salutations be to you, O Bhadrakali. May your bell that fills the world with its ringing and destroys the prowess of the Daityas guard us, O Devi, as a mother protects her children from all evils. May your sword, smeared with the Maya-like blood and fat of Asuras, and gleaming with rays, be for our welfare, O Chandika. We bow to you. When satisfied, you destroy all illness, but when wrathful, you frustrate all the longed-for desires. No calamity befalls men who have sought you. Those who have sought you become verily a refuge of others. This slaughter that you, O Devi, multiplying your own form into many, have now wrought on the great Asuras who hate righteousness, O Ambika, which other goddess can do that work? Who is there except you in the sciences, in the scriptures, and in the Vedic sayings that light the lamp of discrimination? Still, you cause the universe to whirl about again and again within the dense darkness of the depths of attachment, where rakshases and snakes of virulent poison are, where foes and hosts of robbers exist, where forest conflagrations occur. There in the mid-sea, you stand and save the world. O Queen of the universe, You protect the universe. As the self of the universe, you support the universe. You are the goddess, worthy to be adored by the Lord of the universe. Those who bow in devotion to you themselves become the refuge of the universe. O Devi, be pleased and protect us always from fear and foes, as you have done just now by the slaughter of Asuras, and destroy quickly the sins of all worlds and the great calamities which have sprung from the maturing of evil portents. O Devi, you who remove the afflictions of the universe, be gracious to us who have bowed to you. O you, worthy of adoration by the dwellers of the three worlds, be boon giver to the world. The Devi said, O Devas, I am prepared to bestow a boon. Choose whatever boon you desire in your mind for the welfare of the world. I shall grant it. The Devas said, O Queen of all, in this same manner you must slay all our enemies and all the afflictions of the three worlds. The Devi said, when the 28th age has arrived during the period of Vaivasvat Manu, two other great Asuras, Shumb and Nishum, will be born. Then born from the womb of Yashoda in the home of cowherd Nand and dwelling on the Vindhya mountain, I will destroy both of them. And again, having incarnated in a very terrible form on the earth, I shall slay the Danavas, who are the descendants of Viprachiti. When I shall devour the fierce and great Asuras descended from Viprachiti, my teeth shall become red like the flower of pomegranate. Therefore, when Danavas in heaven and men on the earth praise me, shall always talk of me as the red-toothed. And again, when rain shall fail for a period of 100 years, propitiated by the Munis, I shall be born on a drought-ridden earth, but not womb-begotten. Then I shall behold the Munis with 100 eyes, and so mankind shall glorify me as the 100-eyed. At that time, O Devas, I shall maintain the whole world with life-sustaining vegetables born out of my own cosmic body till rains set in. I shall be famed on the earth then as Shakambari. At that very period I shall slay the great Asur named Durgama. Thereby I shall have the celebrated name of Durga Devi. And again, assuming a terrible form on the mountain Himalaya, I shall destroy the Rakshasas for the protection of the Munis. Then all the Munis, bowing their bodies reverently, shall praise me, and thereby I shall have the celebrated name of Bhima Devi. When the Asur named Arun shall work great havoc in the three worlds, having taken a collective bee form consisting of innumerable bees, I shall slay the Asur for the good of the world. And then people shall laud me everywhere as Brahmari. Thus, whenever trouble arises due to the advent of the Danavas, I shall incarnate and destroy the foes. Here ends the 11th chapter called Hymn to Narayani of Devi Mahatmym in Markandeya Puran during the period of Savarni, the Manu. The Devi said, and whoever with a concentrated mind shall pray to me constantly with these hymns, I shall without doubt put down every trouble of his. And those who shall laud the story of the destruction of Madhu and Gaitav, the slaughter of Mahishasur, and the slaying of Shumb and Nishum likewise, and those also who shall listen with devotion to this sublime poem on my greatness on the 8th and the 14th and on the 9th days of the fortnight, with concentrated mind, to them nothing shall happen, nor calamities that arise from the wrongdoings, nor poverty and never separation from beloved ones. He shall not experience fear from enemies, or from robbers and kings, or from weapon, fire, and flood. Hence this poem of my greatness must be chanted by men of concentrated mind and listened to always with devotion, for it is the supreme course of well-being. May this poem of my glories quell all epidemic calamities, as also the threefold natural calamities. The place of my sanctuary, where this poem is duly chanted every day, I will never forsake, and there my presence is certain. When sacrifice is offered during worship in the fire ceremony and at a great festival, all this poem on my acts must be chanted and heard. I will accept with love the sacrifice and worship that has been made, and the fire offering that is offered likewise, whether they are done with due knowledge of sacrifice or not. During autumnal season, when the great annual worship is performed, the man hearing this glorification of mine with devotion shall certainly, through my grace, be delivered without doubt from all troubles, and be blessed with riches, grains, and children. Hearing this glorification and auspicious appearances of mine, and my feats of prowess in battles, a man becomes fearless. Enemies perish, welfare accrues, and the family rejoices for those who listen to this glorification of mine. Let one listen to this glorification of mine everywhere at a perpetuatory ceremony, on seeing a bad dream, and when there is great evil influence of planets. By the means evil portents subside, as also the unfavorable influence of planets, and the bad dream seen by men turns into a good dream. It creates peacefulness in children possessed by the diseases of children, and it is the best promoter of friendship among men when split occurs in their union. It diminishes most effectively the power of all men of evil ways. Verily, demons, goblins, and ogres are destroyed by its mere chanting. This entire glorification of mine draws a devotee very near to me, and by means of finest cattle, flowers, arghya, and incenses, and by the perfumes and lamps, by feeding Brahmins, by oblations, by sprinkling consecrated water, and by various other offerings and gifts. If one worships day and night in a year, the gratification which is done to me is attained by listening but once to this holy story of mine. The chanting and hearing of the story of my manifestations remove sin and grant perfect health and protect one from evil spirits. And when my martial exploit in the form of the slaughter of the wicked deities is listened to, men will have no fear from enemies. And the hymns uttered by you, and those by the divine sages, and those by Brahma, bestow a pious mind. He who is lost on a lonesome spot in the forest, or is surrounded by the forest fire, or he is surrounded by robbers in a desolate spot, or he is captured by enemies, or he is pursued by a lion or tiger, or by wild elephants in a forest, or he is under the orders of a wrathful king, is sentenced to death, or has been imprisoned, or who is tossed about in the boat by a tempest in the vast sea, or who is most terrible battle under showers of weapons, or he is amidst all kinds of dreadful troubles, or who is afflicted with pain. Such a man, on remembering this story of mine, is saved from his strait. Through my power, lions, etc., robbers and enemies flee from a distance from him who remembers the story of mine. The Rishi said, having spoken thus, the adorable Chandika, fierce in prowess, vanished on that very spot, even as the Devas were gazing on. Their foes having been killed, all the Devas also were delivered from fear. All of them resumed their own duties as before, and participated in their shares of sacrifices. When the exceedingly valorous Shumba Nishum, the most fierce foes of the Devas, who brought ruin on the world, and who was unparalleled in prowess, had been slain by the Devi in battle, the remaining deities went away to Patal. Thus, O King, the adorable Devi, although eternal, incarnating again and again, protects the world. By her this universe is deluded, and it is she who creates this universe, and when entreated, she bestows supreme knowledge, and when propitiated, she bestows prosperity. By her, the Mahakali, who takes the form of the great destroyer at the end of time, all this cosmic sphere is pervaded. She indeed takes the form of the great destroyer at the proper time. She, the unborn, indeed becomes this creation at the time proper for recreation. She herself, the eternal being, sustains the beings at another time. In times of prosperity, she indeed is Lakshmi, who bestows prosperity in the homes of men, and in times of misfortune, she herself becomes the goddess of misfortune and brings about ruin. When praised and worshipped with flowers, incense, perfumes, etc., she bestows wealth and sons, and a mind bent on righteousness and prosperous life. Here ends the 12th chapter called Eulogy of the Merits of Devi Mahatmym in the Markandeya Puran during the period of Savarni of the Manu. The Rishi said, I have now narrated to you, O king, this sublime poem on the glory of the Devi. The Devi is endowed with such majestic power. By her, this world is upheld. Knowledge is similarly conferred by her, the elusive power of Bhagwan Vishnu. By her, you, this merchant, and other men of discrimination are being deluded, and others were deluded in the past and will be deluded in the future. O great king, take refuge in her, the supreme Ishwari. She indeed, when worshipped, bestows on men enjoyment, heaven, and final release from transmigration. Markandeya said to his disciple Bhaguri, O great sage, King Surat, who had become despondent, consequent on the excessive attachment and the deprivation of his kingdom, and the merchant, having heard this speech, prostrated before the illustrious Rishi of severe penances, and immediately repaired to perform austerities. Both king and the merchant, in order to obtain a vision of Amba, stationed themselves on the sandbank of a river and practiced penances, chanting the supreme Devi Sukta, the hymn to the Devi. Having made an earthen image of the Devi on the sand of the river, they both worshipped her with flowers, incense, fire, and libation of water. Now abstaining from food, and now restraining in their food, with their minds on her, and with concentration, they both offered sacrifices sprinkled with blood drawn from their own bodies. When they, with controlled minds, propitiated her thus for 3 years, Chandika, the upholder of the world, was well pleased and spoke to them in visible form. The Devi said, What you solicit, O king, and you, the delight of your family, receive all that from me. Well pleased I bestow to you both. Markandeya said, Then the king chose a kingdom, imperishable, even in another life, and in this life itself, his own kingdom, wherein the power of his enemies is destroyed by force. Then the wise merchant, also, whose mind was full of dispassion for the world, chose that knowledge which removes the attachment in the form of mine and I. The Devi said, O king, after slaying your foes in a few days, you shall obtain your own kingdom, and it shall last with you there. And when you are dead, you shall gain another birth from the Deva Vivasvat, and shall be a Manu on the earth by the name Savarni. And, O best of merchants, I grant you the boon which you have desired of me. Supreme knowledge shall be yours for your self-realization. Markandeya said, having thus granted them both the boon that each desired, the Devi disappeared forthwith, as they were extolling her with devotion. Having thus gained the boon from the Devi, Surat, the foremost of Kshatriyas, shall obtain a new birth through Surya, and of his wife Savarna, and shall be the Manu 8th, named Savarni, shall be the Manu named Savarni. Here ends the 13th chapter, called Bestowing of Boons to Surat and Vaishya of Devi Mahatmym in Markandeya Puran during the period of Savarni the Manu. Here ends the Devi Mahatmya of 700 mantras. Om Tat Sat. Thanks everybody. That brings the end to the Chandipath reading. Thank you for those that have managed to listen throughout the couple of hours. If anybody does feel they do want the full text, if they want to read it after this, then I'm happy to provide that. Just drop me a message. And this recording will be available as well. So with that, thank you very much. Jai Ambe.